All right, a little bit of wake up music here on Saturday afternoon. Today is Saturday, April 5th, 2014. This is Joe Hinches with Beyond the Chart. And this is technical analysis of the stock market today, weekend edition. The Dow was down 160 points on Friday, so it got whacked pretty good coming out of that whole jobs report scenario. I talked about Thursday night, said fireworks for Friday. And, weren't really sure which way those fireworks were going to go, but we got them to the downside. And pretty strong action, especially on the NASDAQ and the Russell 2000. On a weekly basis, the Dow was actually up almost 90 points for the week, still trending higher slightly. The S&P 500 index down 23.6 points. Again, still trending higher, hasn't taken out some lows in here. If you look at it on a weekly basis, it was up 7.5 points on the week. We've been showing this weekly negative divergence. And so, it's a sign that this thing could be getting ready. Now, we got it before, and we just got a little pullback to the 21-week moving average. So, I don't know, I'm getting it two times in a row here within the last 9 months. It does make you kind of wonder, are we getting ready to break? But we're still trending higher on the S&P and the Dow. Now, it's a little different on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ's leading us down now. So it's a good possibility the NASDAQ led us higher. So the NASDAQ going to lead us down? We'll just have to see. Now, again, lower low, and we actually took out this low here too. So we've had a third low in here and lower highs. The numbers I've got in here, I think we could have a wave 1 down and then an ABC wave 2 corrective type of correction and then be starting a wave 3 down. So we'll just have to see. That's just my initial scenario. We always look and, you put out some idea and then you there's always an alternative scenario. There's always an alternative scenario. NASDAQ weekly, here's what's interesting. We got 2 consecutive closes, one lower than the other on a weekly basis below the 10 EMA. Okay. Last time we had that happen was October 2012, and prior to that, May 2012. Both of those led to further sell-offs. So we'll have to watch and see whether that's happening. There's no guarantees, but I'm just talking about precedent, and we do have a divergence that's showing up. So that's interesting on the NASDAQ. The Russell 2000, we're getting the same type of scenario with lower lows, lower highs. We've got a broadening top in here, 5 points. That's a negative type of chart formation. It's historically been negative. And so that's something I'm watching. The New York Composite is showing the same thing. Historically negative, broadening top, and we'll see. I mean, the Composite is not negative, showing negative type action like the NASDAQ and the Russell 2000, but it could catch up fairly quickly. Okay. Let's take a look at the short-term trading index. If I can find it. I had this same problem earlier today. Here it goes, short-term trend. All right, the 10-day EMA, the blue line, is right at 1. Okay, so we haven't gone below the red line. We haven't gone below the red line since December. So we're still not at that bullish extreme that usually indicates some kind of a top. So, you get this quandary in here in terms of the market action. The VIX, volatility index, it popped naturally with a big move to the downside that we got on Friday. But here's what I'm watching is this downward trend line, just like it's happened over here and it's happened before, and you get the big spike up out of these trend line breaks. And again, we've typically had these tops around 21 and a half or so on the VIX where it's topped out on the move. Okay, the VIX, the high-low index is the other one I wanted to look at. It's not really showing anything. It's kind of going sideways in here. But again, not giving us any kind of real, and hasn't given us a solid bullish type scenario for several months. Okay, now I want to take a look at the semiconductors ETF. This has been showing negative divergence, okay? I saw this and I was going to show it on Thursday, but I had too many other things I want to talk about. But I think I mentioned that it was showing a negative divergence, a bearish divergence. And now it came home to roost on Friday, and it came in with a vengeance. So pretty big down move on Friday in the semiconductors. And then we've got the home builders ETF, which I'm right on. And the home builders, this looks like we've got this trend line in here that it broke. It looks like it pulled back to the trend line and then reversed on Friday. So big swing day in the home builders index on Friday, but closed down. And then the last one on the ETF is the financial ETFs. And again, this actually, I didn't really see this till I looked at this on a weekly chart. It kind of looks like a little bit of a rising wedge in here. And so I drew these trend lines, and in this then means that it kind of broke down and it's come back and hugged the trend line a little bit, and now pulling down away from it. So we'll get confirmation if this continues. It's below the 10 EMA. If it takes out this point and breaks this trend line, we could be heading south. So that's the way that's looking. And again, I've got been watching Goldman Sachs, and we got puts on Goldman Sachs. It looks negative to me. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay, that's it on that. Now I want to go to Apple, and I don't think I have the Apple Weekly, just the Apple Daily up at this point. Okay, Apple was down almost 7 points on Friday. For the week, it was down about 4 or so, because I had, again, Monday, Tuesday it was up a little bit, pulled down. I think it's broken this big trend line here. This action looks similar to when it broke this trend line over here. If you notice, when it broke the trend line, it then snapped back and kind of overshot up into the trend line a little bit, and then that was what I called kiss goodbye in January, and then it sold off big. And now it's kind of, there's been a lot of bullishness on Apple naturally, but we've gotten no new highs, okay? There are all these high points, pivot points are lower than the previous pivot point, okay? And so now we're looking to see, are we reversing? Are we going to break this trend line, which would then go down and lead us to try to challenge this point? Are we going to at least go down here to the 233-day moving average? Well, that's what I'm looking for. So similar pullbacks after breaking, you pull back, a little bit overshoot, and now you're continuing down the pullback. We'll have to see if we get further action to the downside. And again, the reason I'm looking for this bearish to the downside is I think that we've had a big 5-wave down, 3 waves up, and I think that's an A, B, and so I'm looking for a C down. A zigzag correction. On the long-term chart, this is 3 big waves. So I think we're in a big 4th wave correction and then another 5th wave big bullish move coming, but we got to finish the 4th wave correction is my interpretation of what we're in. And right now, it's not telling me it wants to go to the upside yet until we start getting higher highs, and we're not getting higher highs. Okay, the next one is BIDU. This will be quick because BIDU is basically just continuing the down. A little bit of snapback early in the week, continuing the downtrend, negative. I think we've got an ABC, but I've also, as I talked about before, we've got 5 waves up. So we are correcting. I've talked about these gaps down here. It looks like they could be like magnets attracting it to the downside. And the last one I want to take a look at is Tesla. And Tesla, I think we've got 5 waves up. It's been this was a little hard to interpret that down in here, but I think we've got a 1, a 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think, and based on we've had this was complex and 66% retrace of this move, and this is a zigzag in here, 46%, usually shallower than the first one. They typically are opposite. And so if this is the play out, and the other thing that's interesting, the reason why I think this is a 5th wave is because you get divergence, and I'm getting it on the weekly chart when I show it. So typically you get a pullback down into the 4th wave is where you'd be looking. So down below 150 on Tesla. And when you look at the weekly chart and you look at the divergence, you're getting divergence in here where the 5th wave went to a higher high, but the indicators didn't. Okay. That's it on Tesla. I'll be back tomorrow with trade ideas. This has been Joe for Beyond the Chart. Thanks for stopping by.